Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright to discuss the full lineup of the Genesis Mini. So, let's get started. Alright John, so Sega said they were going to be doing it, and they absolutely did. We finally got our full lineup of the Genesis or Mega Drive Mini, and there's some surprises in here. Namely that we got 42 games instead of the standard 40. And as you explained in the update, basically we got brand new ports or completed versions of Tetris on the Genesis and Darius, which was never ported there before. It's completely new by M2, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. I guess this is their take on Star Fox 2 from the Super Nintendo Classic, but these games, I never expected them in a million years. The original version of Tetris on the Mega Drive was basically just cancelled. There's maybe 10 versions out there in the wild based on prototypes, and the reason it was cancelled was because of licensing issues, because it came out on the Game Boy, when Nintendo just paid a buttload to get that franchise. So it was just canned. But yeah, they brought it back for the Mega Drive Classic, and I never expected Darius either. Like they're actually making this game from scratch for the Genesis, which is nuts. Like they're actually making a brand new game for this system.
Yeah, especially when Darius 2 is on the Genesis. They could have just ported that. But no.
Right. And yeah, it's a great lineup all in all, but it does sting a little bit not to have Sonic 3 on here. I know why they're not doing it, because of the licensing issues with the music. They haven't done it in 9 years now. The last release was, I think, a Sonic Classic Collection on the DS, and then before that was the Wii Virtual Console version. But yeah, it's been a while since Sonic 3. My hope is that one day they'll do like a T. Lopes revision where he does a brand new soundtrack for the game, but it doesn't seem like it's time yet. But it's also a little bit disappointing not to have Rise Star as well, because that was another Sonic Team classic on the Genesis, and I would have much rather had that than let's say Altered Beast.
Yeah, screw Altered Beast. There are certain games that Sega insists on putting on any of their collections that are just bad. They're not good. Mm-hmm. It's a little frustrating in that aspect, but yeah, it really is disappointing that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is not on here. It's not a deal breaker to me, but I think they should have at least done what they did with the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection last gen on the PS3 and Xbox 360, where they had both games on there. They just weren't connected. You just couldn't connect them. So you could have Sonic 3 on its own and Sonic and Knuckles on its own, which, sucks as you can't play them together, but hey, at least they're there.
Right, exactly. And I don't want to complain too much about what's not there, because these are 42 games, they're very varied in what they offer. Mm-hmm. But I would have also liked the Revenge of Shinobi. We have Shinobi 3 on here, but personally I prefer the one before that. Shinobi 3 is still a great game though, and I don't want to come across as too entitled, because the actual lineup we have here is fantastic. I love that we have Gunstar Heroes, though I guess another one that's missing is Rocket Knight Adventures. That would have been very cool to have too.
There's a lot of them, like, it would have been cool to have, like, Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Just because it's so well known for that. It's not a huge loss in my opinion, but there's some really fun things here. Like, let's not forget, we are getting Mega Man The Wily Wars as ported by M2. That is going to be amazing, especially to get rid of all the slowdown, have it actually at 60 hertz. This is going to be good.
Exactly. I think, Derek, you're probably sold on this thing when they announced Castlevania Bloodlines, which I think was in the first batch of games they announced for this system.
Yeah, they did. I didn't get it right away because the coolness of them announcing that was kind of undercut by the Anniversary Collection of Castlevania, which also has it. So sure. I can play Bloodlines right now on my Switch, but it's still cool to have it on the original. I actually, when I went to stream it, I had to not only buy a new Genesis system so I could actually stream it, but get the cartridge itself, which I never owned. And so it's like, oh, cool, I spent all that money and now I can easily get it otherwise. Go figure. But either way, it's still cool to have it there. It is a nice legacy, and just the sheer fact that it's getting ported more and more people can experience it, because that was the only way. The method I used to stream it was the only method available, so now that people can actually play this game on other systems.
Right. And I'm a big Contra fan, so to have Contra Hardcore on here is great as well. But you are right, the Contra and Castlevania collections do kind of undermine these two inclusions. But it's cool that they're here regardless. And just the third-party support in general is solid. Like, we have Ghouls and Ghosts, we have, as you said, Mega Man The Wily Wars, Street Fighter 2. There's a ton of stuff on here, not just from Sega themselves. And there's even some Disney games. There's Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion. It would have been very cool if they had, like, Aladdin on here, but I guess that was probably a bit pricey, especially with the movie just coming out. But yeah, regardless, it's great to have these games on here.
Oh, it absolutely is. Like, the fact, I've never played Castle of Illusion, but I grew up with World of Illusion and really enjoyed that game. And if I remember correctly, you can't get the true ending of that game unless you're doing co-op.
Oh, right. And that's funny because I grew up with Castle of Illusion, but never played World of Illusion.
Oh, wow.
On the flip side.
That's amazing. Yeah, I really enjoy World of Illusion, but it blew my mind when I actually played with a friend back in the day, and we got farther. I'm like, wait, what the heck? I've never seen this before. So that's really cool, and nice that they include the two controllers. Just to have a quick thing to knock against Sega, why only 3 buttons? Especially when you're including Street Fighter 2. Yeah,
and even Virtua Fighter 2. And actually, the inclusion of Virtua Fighter 2 is a little funny because the Mega Drive version isn't exactly the best. There's also a 32X version and, of course, the Saturn version. So you're kind of getting the worst version here, but again, I'm not going to knock its inclusion, but it isn't exactly the ideal way to play Virtua Fighter 2.
Yeah, not really. I mean, save that for a Saturn collection.
Right, yeah.
I hope so. God, I hope so. I hope if this does well enough, I might actually consider a Saturn collection, because that could be brilliant all on its own.
Yeah, that'd be great. And on the puzzle front, there's some brilliant inclusions here. We have Mean Bean Machine, which is basically Puyo Puyo. We have Tetris, and we also have Columns. So basically, the 3 biggest puzzle games of their era are all on this collection.
Yeah, and I've never really gotten into Columns because the only time I remember trying it out is like, wait, I can't like rotate? That's weird. I can't do it. Yeah. I was too much in the Tetris mindset to appreciate it. So I'm going to try it again here with this collection, because I did pre-order it last night thinking, okay, if they did announce Sonic 3 and Knuckles, probably gonna want to get on this so I can guarantee myself a system. But even without it, it's still worth it.
I always saw Columns as like the Sega Tetris, because my friend had a Game Gear growing up, and I had a Game Boy, and he was addicted to Columns, whereas I was addicted to Tetris. And I always thought that maybe they made Columns just because they couldn't get Tetris. So it's kind of funny now they have both of them on the same system. And also what's funny is the NES Classic never got Tetris.
Yeah.
So the system that was affiliated with the brand doesn't get it, whereas the Mega Drive does.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we got some good RPGs on here with Shining Force, Beyond Oasis, Phantasy Star 4. Alicia Dragoon's not an RPG. I think Light Crusader is, though.
Mm-hmm. Phantasy Star 4 in particular is one of my favourite RPGs of all time. So that's very, very cool to have that on there. Out of all of these games, you can get hundreds and hundreds of hours out of these. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who didn't grow up with the system and has never touched these games before, then you are in for the long haul. There's a lot of content to get through here.
Yeah, it really is, and that's a great thing. Like, I'm actually kind of excited that Road Rash is on here, because I remember in high school there'd be computers set up with Road Rash, and we just play that when there's nothing going on in class. So I have some fond memories of it. I don't know how good the Genesis version is, but it's still pretty cool that we're getting it. I'm all for these wacky games that we haven't really seen much of, like Monster. I don't really know much about Monster World 4 or Eternal Champions or even Light Crusader, and I just like the name Alicia Dragoon. So.
Yeah. It's a cool name. Monster World 4, I think, was only released on the Mega Drive in Japan, so that's kind of another debut along with Tetris and Darius. So, honestly, I think this entire lineup might even be doing more for me than the Super Nintendo Classic did, because not only is there basically double the games, but I kind of have more of an incentive to play these ones, just because the Super Nintendo's collection was, while it was brilliant, it was also kind of obvious. Like, there's games in here I wouldn't necessarily have chosen. And that's kind of cool, because it gets you playing games that you haven't played again and again and again.
Yeah, and that's the fun of this. And this is a good sampling of games that were on the Genesis. And, you're not going to get a complete, like, for example, going back to this Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, that felt complete. You had not only Vector Man, but Vector Man 2. You had all 3 Streets of Rages. You had all 4 Phantasy Stars. If the entire series was on Genesis, they're on that collection. That's a good way to play them, but if you want to have more variety, which I'm looking for, because since I do have that collection, this is like, it was only Sega games before, so having non-Sega games on the Genesis really does increase the value of this, while also highlighting the best of those Genesis games, other than Altered
And you
Beast.
know they're going to play well as well. Like, these are the M2 versions. They're not going to be bad. I saw a comment saying they've bought other all-in-one Sega systems before and the sound quality's been bad. That's not going to be the case here. I'm certain M2's done a good job with this.
Yeah, it's undoubtedly, it's going to be really good stuff, and I'm excited for this. It sucks that we still have to wait until September 19th to actually play these, but I think Sega's done a really good job with choosing their titles and overall making something that people would really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool they've gone with Streets of Rage 2 as well, because I think most people have played the first game. 2 is one, 3 is obviously the rare one, but 2 is one that people, I don't think have generally played all that much. So it's cool they didn't just go with that obvious one there as well. Though, is Golden Axe on here? Yeah, Golden Axe is on here too.
Yes.
Which, that's great too. Yeah, it's just a really solid lineup all in all. There's obviously a few are missing. Sonic 3 would have made people go out in swarms to buy one of these.
Yeah, it would.
But it's hard to complain with how much variety and quality there is in here.
Mm-hmm. I have to imagine they tried, but I also think if they did get Sonic 3 and Knuckles on here, they would have had to cut their lineup in half.
Oh yeah, that would carry it on its own for sure. I think they probably could have just had Sega games on here. They didn't really need to get the third-party stuff. So it just kind of makes it even more the better that they did.
Mm-hmm. It really does. I kind of like these mini consoles, and let's be honest, somebody's going to hack this thing. They happen almost immediately for the NES and SNES Classic. It's going to happen. Unless Sega was really good about protecting this stuff, it's going to happen.
Probably the day it comes out, yeah. But yeah, this whole lineup and device just kind of puts the PlayStation Classic to shame.
Oh god, yeah.
Getting M2 on this, you're basically guaranteeing quality. And the lineup itself, it just runs circles around the PlayStation Classic. And it even comes close to the Super Nintendo Classic, and in some ways surpasses it. So I'm really excited for this. I think they've done a great job. Disappointed in some areas, but also over the moon in other areas. And that's really all I could ask for.
Yeah, exactly. You're never going to have a perfect lineup of games on this, but this comes pretty close to having like the essentials, and I can appreciate that as for the Genesis Mini. And I mean, I grew up a Genesis kid. It's kind of weird not to get this. So
absolutely, yeah.
But I right off the bat, game you're most excited to play on here.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the first game I'll play is Tetris. I'm not sure if it's the game I'm most excited for, but just for legacy reasons, that's one I'm gonna boot up to start with. But I think Mega Man The Wily Wars might be my most anticipated game, just because this is basically the best way to play that game now. And it's one I haven't really played all that much. I dabbled around with it once, but yeah, I never really got into it though.
It's funny, I was gonna say Wily Wars as well, because I think
like
Tetris is cool because it's so rare. Darius, I'm not that into bullet hell shooters, but Mega Man, that's some classic stuff. I'm very familiar with that, and I heard the extra mode that like the Wily's Tower is really cool because you can mix and match the powers. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And basically all the complaints I've heard about Wily Wars is that it's slow, so this should fix that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think the way most people played it was off of the European ROM, which is only 50 hertz, which is why it's so slow.
Exactly.
Interesting stuff, but yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be good, and fortunately, I mean, we complained about the controllers only having 3 buttons. They are selling other controllers that do have the 6 buttons. It's just separate, which sucks, but to be honest, I'm probably not going to get it.
Right, I mean, most of these games don't require 6 buttons. It's basically for Street Fighter 2. And I think basically everyone watching this video probably has multiple ways of playing Street Fighter 2. So whether it's a big deal for you or not, I mean, who's to say? I would have preferred them to sell it with 6 buttons, of course, but it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, at least have 1 6 button, 1 3 button.
Yeah, that would have been a cool solution.
It still would have hurt the Street Fighter 2, but at least one person could have played it.
Sure.
Alright, well, I think that covers it for our Genesis mini discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, and of course make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Sega and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.